It's cool to see the growth here of this AdTech Meetup. These guys have done a great job. I think last time we hosted was a little over a year ago. It's maybe a third as many people, half as many people, something like that. So it's cool to see the growth, and I think that speaks to the industry as a whole and just how it's growing here in the Denver Boulder market as well. I think last time we hosted it as well, we had like maybe 5 or 6 employees here at the trade desk. We have getting close to 25 here now, probably in June, at something like 30. Always hiring engineers and data analysts, things like that. So, if you know what but I guess I should introduce myself too. I'm Mike Davis, VP of Innovation at the Trade Desk. When we left Microsoft, say 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, to start the Trade Desk, we set out to build the most expressive and powerful buyer's platform for all digital media. We have this belief that all advertising will go through programmatic means. We've seen a lot of growth in that, just like we're seeing it in our own company, in the Boulder office, and this AdTech Meetup. We're seeing a lot of growth kind of throughout the industry. And as we look at as we look at kind of the overall growth, we're seeing kind of this overall trajectory of we see this overall trajectory of growth of really programmatic requests that we're seeing as a DSP that are coming in through our system, right? So, I remember kind of back here in the beginning, we were sitting at the trade desk, we were doing something like 2,000 requests a second. We were all proud of ourselves for building this great system that can handle 2,000 requests a second. And our CEO was sitting there, hey, Greg. Our CEO was telling us we had to get 20,000 requests a second, and those of us in the engineering team just couldn't comprehend how we were going to get there. It was kind of one of those turning points in the company where we weren't sure how things were going to work. So fast forward kind of 5 years, we're doing well over 2 million requests a second, and that's going to continue to grow. And likely we'll see that curve grow to somewhere around 3 million requests a second by the end of this year. As we start to move into a lot of additional channels, as mobile comes in, as additional video, television, all the different social channels, everything comes in, we'll continue to see this massive growth going through the platform. And I think everybody in the industry is seeing that same type of growth. So one thing that we see that's a little bit different than that, there's continued growth, and this is, I push my projector over. So this is really about users that we are able to track, right? Within this industry, there's this continued growth in that as well, but it's not keeping pace with what we're seeing as far as how many requests per second that we're seeing, right? So there's a lot of growth in the industry. There's not as much growth in users that we can track. For most of us in this ad tech industry, the ability to retarget users is really kind of a lot of our bread and butter. We can always target users based on things like geographic, people who live in Boulder or whatever, or different things like that. But being able to retarget users that we know have they're in some certain profile group, or they visited my site before, things like that. I think that's really what's more valuable to us as an industry. So as we look at that, from our perspective, this is really kind of starting to open up a number of missed opportunities that we're really seeking. There's a lot of value there that we don't have access to because we don't have the ability to do that. Let's see. Too many blank slides. So there's a lot of things that we as an industry do to track users, right? So we look at third-party cookies, and then kind of lump in their device ID. It's just a generalized way that we're able to track users, right? Third-party cookies is probably the kind of more standard way that we do this online. The device ID is for mobile, television, different connected TV, sites like that. Right? This is really kind of standard way that we all use today. There's also first-party cookies. First-party cookies are something like I own the website, I have access to that, it's on my domain. Third-party cookies are something that's more broadly shared. I'm probably telling everybody something we already just to cover it. Kind of the third piece here is really statistical IDs, something that's coming out a little bit more recently, where a lot of companies are starting to build out statistical methods of tracking users based on machine information, browser information, different device information that we have access to when we have some programmatic language on the browser or within an app or something like that. Right? So statistical IDs, they're not going to be as good at tracking individual users. Like I can't say this is one person particularly, but I can say, there's probably this group of users that all look the same, and it's a small enough group of users that there's value in targeting that. Really what we see in the industry is like all of these things work together, right? It's not about just third-party cookies or just about first-party cookies, unless you're Facebook or Google and have everybody in the world on first-party cookies. But you have to use all of these different methods together. A lot of us in this industry, that are in this room here, that are in the industry, like we don't have access to a lot of first-party cookies. So third-party cookies are the things that we're seeing not keep pace with the overall demand that we're seeing in the industry. So looking to something like statistical IDs is really what helps us to bridge that gap. So really what I want to talk to you tonight about is a project that we've been working on with a number of other companies within the industry. It's called openprofileid.org. And it's really just an open source project. We've been working on this with a number of data partners, even a couple of our competitors in the DSP space, and a lot of SSPs as well. Open Profile ID is, again, it's an open source standard that we're trying to push in the industry. It's really just a way to statistically identify users and a common way that all of us within the industry can use the same set of code to generate the same ID for the same user. So we recently, we've been working very closely with the NAI as well, right? NAI is kind of the common industry group that represents a lot of us in Washington and just in privacy, different types of forums there as well. So NAI just recently approved this. They have a lot of lawyers at the NAI. They spend a lot of time looking at this. And then just recently added this to their new NAI Code of Conduct update that they put out. So there's a lot of backing. There's been a lot of hesitation for a lot of companies in the industry to actually go with any statistical ID approach because of some of the privacy concerns that are out there and the transparency concerns that we also see. So with the NAI backing, we've changed a lot of things in what we've done here. And we're able to actually meet a lot of the concerns that they have. So really, the core of what we're trying to do here is create kind of a core library where everybody in the industry can go and target a specific user using the same statistical ID. So by open sourcing that, everybody has access to that, and that allows everybody to generate that same ID. Now we can all trade the same ID. We can identify users and put them in these same groups together. I think that's probably all. One of the big things that everybody cares about in the industry from a consumer standpoint is privacy, right? So as we started to look at this, and as the NAI really pushed us to do, like privacy was one of the big concerns that we had to take a look at in the code that we were building here. We spent a lot of time to be able to give users that assurance that we were going to protect their privacy and do that in a lot of different ways. So NAI has obviously helped out a lot with that. Here we're talking about open profile IDs a lot less invasive than even a third-party cookie. So third-party cookies identify a single user on a single machine at any given time, whereas open profile ID isn't quite as perfect as that, right? And like there's some intent in how perfect we made it, right? Like we don't want to be able to identify too small of a group to be able to keep privacy concerns at bay. There's additional things that we can do on the back end to be able to get a lot better at how we track those users. But the general ID that we're all generating from this open source code is going to identify a small group of users. Again, there's some value in actually targeting that small group. Let's see what else is there. Yeah, from a privacy standpoint, like NAI has an opt-out page. Like, I'm sure how many people actually ever clicked on opt-out. But if you click on most of the little privacy icons that are in ads, the NAI, some page that will eventually link you to the NAI so you can opt out of all ads across people. So the Open Statistical ID or Open Profile ID that we have actually it does the same thing. Fits into the same opt-out capabilities that we have with the NAI today for third-party and first-party. Yeah, so I already talked a little bit about how we identify really a small group of users. You know, like if everybody has the same exact type of setup on their system, they may look a lot alike to us from a statistical ID perspective. But we're able to group those users based on browsing patterns, traffic patterns, different things like that, and be able to understand how they might be segregated and start to put them into pools that are very valuable to target. Right? They may not be valuable to target 10 million users in a pool, but if we get that down to, say, 10 users or 25 users, there's still a lot of value to target. Kind of another piece of this, really of privacy, is transparency. Transparency is obviously more from industry watchdog type of groups. Every time there's somebody who comes out with something that they say has privacy or cares about their privacy, like some industry watchdog group is going to go out and try to hack that and figure out how you're stealing their profile information. There's a lot of different groups that have tried to go through the NAI or others that are creating like cookie trusts, different things like that, where there's kind of a central store of a user profile information. And what we're doing with Open Profile ID is more about like how do we create a standard that everybody can use and everybody has access to. The industry watchdog groups are going to have access to our source code. NAI's updated privacy policies so that all of us as AdTech companies and publishers that are out there can actually go and just grab the privacy policy information and add it to our sites really easy. Talks about a little bit about opt-out capabilities. And the open source capabilities here are really one of the most important things for transparency. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, so we talk about privacy a lot. Really, we're talking about that gap that we're seeing in the overall growth of programmatic advertising transactions and the users that we can actually track, and trying to fill that gap that's there with it. And that's really about like an extended reach for all of us as advertising companies, and the ability for us to continue to target those users. There's also some monetary savings that we're going to see. Like most of the companies that we work with here today are doing some sort of cookie exchange where there's network traffic going back and forth, there's server processing, there's storage where we're storing these big just mapping tables of things for hundreds of millions of users, half of which are potentially out of date. So we're able to start to save on some of that. Where we don't have to need to do all of that for Open Profile ID. So we're all able to generate the same exact ID all the time. Yeah, so we talked about a lot of what we're trying to do is meet the consumer demands for privacy and continue to extend our reach into a lot of these different markets that are out there. We kind of talked about a lot of this stuff. What we're really asking people to do tonight is, all of you are in this ad tech industry. We would love to see everybody start to adopt Open Profile ID. Again, it's an open standard. Anyone has access to it. We have a website up. The source code is available for you to grab. There's a JavaScript NPM, and anybody can just insert into their code, start using this. For those on the supply side that are sending bid requests to DSPs like us, we'd love to work with you on how we can start to bid on users from a statistical ID standpoint. For those that are on the data side, data logics, others that are here, starting to be able to send user profile IDs, statistical IDs for different data segments is really important. And there's a lot of different cases where we can do similar together. So it's pretty easy to get started, and we'd love to have everybody join. So as we talk about kind of those missed opportunities that we have, really a lot of what we're trying to accomplish with Open Profile is to turn a lot of those missed opportunities into just open opportunities that we can have, where we can continue to extend our reach and continue to move forward. Yeah, so we'd love to have talk to anybody who's interested in getting involved in this. Something that we're obviously opening up to everybody in the industry. The initial version that we did, we worked with at least a couple of our competitors as well, and trying to open it up. Just like OpenRTB is an industry standard, we see this moving into the same type of standard spot. And we've already pushed out some extensions to OpenRTB where we can start passing statistical IDs through along with third-party.
All right. Thanks, John. So we'll take a couple questions. If you guys kind of want to just throw, yeah, go ahead.
This might be a stupid question, but how exactly do you get to a statistical ID? Like, are there a ton of different components that go into it, or what exactly? How do you assign that?
Yeah, so there's, certainly taking a look at the code and being able to see exactly what's done there. But it's essentially taking it's either JavaScript or Flash or some other code that's running on some device, right? That's able to go and take a whole bunch of the parameters that are common that we can have access to, and basically hash some value of all of those into some ID, right? So we have some formula or algorithm that we put together that says these are the parameters that we're going to look at. For browsers, we typically look at things like what are all the plugins that are installed with the browser version, it's the IP address, a couple other things like that. We take all those values, blend them together, hash the thing, and that's our ID. So, yeah.
Is it cross-device?
Yeah, so there's, every device is going to generate a different ID, but like the cross-device capabilities, like this is definitely a big piece of starting to get to a full cross-device view of the world, right? Where we can actually see every user in a consistent way on whatever device they're on. And then we can start to tie those together. So it doesn't, in itself, solve cross-device, but it definitely is one of the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah.
So if you need to create a graph of cross-device stat IDs that all live together, this group of stat IDs actually is the same user, the same set of users.
Yeah, potentially. Like so.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was not very loud. I was just extrapolating on the idea being to take all these unique stat IDs across devices, across multiple equipment, across and group them together and create some kind of an ID graph.
Right. Yeah. So it's really about the question is really about like how do we take these and how does it play into overall cross-device. But yeah, it's really like we're always looking at third-party cookies. We're always looking at statistical IDs. And then we start to look at the patterns that tie all those things together. And those are the types of things that help us to get to cross-device. So like if you see multiple users on a single IP address, like you can start to tie them together potentially. If you see the same user cookie ID and the same statistical ID, for example, and maybe a third just a device ID that we have. We see all of them having similar IP or locations and having similar browsing habits. Like we can start to tie those things together statistically. So.
Anyone else? All right. Thanks so much, Mark.